please total your notes inverses of functions. We talked about yesterday that the notation for f inverse is going to have a superscript of a -1 with a parentheses x, and we read this as f inverse of x. Please remember this does not represent an exponent, it's a superscript, which means f inverse of x cannot be written as 1 over f of x, the reciprocal. We'll do a few examples. We did some examples in class yesterday. So please remember to find the inverse of function, use the reverse order of reverse order of operations. And so we go opposite of PEMDAS. And we also use the inverse operations as well. So in example 1, we have f of x equal to 2 times x. So its inverse then would be x divided by 2. In number 2, we have f of x equals 2x plus 1. So we're going to do timesing by 2 first in PEMDAS and then adding 1, which means in the inverse, we're going to go in the opposite. We'll get rid of the plus 1 first by subtracting 1 and then dividing by 2 last. So we have x minus 1 divided by 2. For number 3, f of x is equal to x minus 1 all cubed. So following PEMDAS, minus 1 would be done first and then cubing done last, which means when I find the inverse, I'll take the cube root of x first, and then I will add 1 last. So you'll notice that in the inverse, I have the opposite operation of cube root rather than cubing, and the opposite operation of plus 1 rather than minus 1. And then for number 4, we have x minus 1 all cubed divided by 2. So if I follow PEMDAS, we'll do subtract 1 first, to the cube power divided by 2 last. So in order to undo those in the reverse order, we'll take the divided by 2 and we'll multiply x by 2 first. We'll do the opposite operation of cube root, and then we'll add 1. Since it was done first with a minus 1, we'll do add 1 last. Now, for your doll, you should have already cut out your pieces. So we have several pieces of clothing that we're going to put on her. So we're going to start with her red stripe shirt. Then we're going to put on her Oxford white button-up. Then we're going to put on her sweater. And then we're going to put on her jacket. Now, when I say put on, you're just going to stack them on top of each other. And then you're going to staple it onto the doll around the neck area. You want to make sure that you have all 4 of those pieces on there. Okay? Now, as far as the rest of her, you can put the skirt on or the pants. It doesn't matter. You can put her toboggan if you want. It's completely up to you. Okay? So if I use this as my example then, f of x is equal to now cube root of x minus 1 over 4 plus 7. If I follow the order of operations, PEMDAS, if I plug in 1 right now, I would subtract 1 first, then I would divide by 4, then I would take the cube root, and then I would add 7. So I told you I'm going to use layering of clothes to talk about inverses. So what I did is the first layer that we have is her striped shirt. So I put a minus 1 on it to represent the first thing that she's putting on, which in PEMDAS is the first operation of minus 1. The second operation was a divide by 4. So that's going to be on her white button-up. The third operation was the cube root. So that's going to go on her sweater. And then the last one was the plus 7. So if you remember, in order to take all these things off, we have to go in the opposite order. So the jacket was last, so now I'm going to take it off first. But in order to do that, I have to do the opposite operation of minus 7. Then once that has come off, we're going to take off the sweater. But in order to do that, we have to do the opposite operation, which is going to be the cubic. Next, we'll take off the white button-up. Even though it was put on second, it's now going to come off third. So it'll be our third order of operations that we'll do. And then we'll do the opposite, which is going to be divided by 4. And then finally, we'll take off the striped shirt, which was put on first. And then we'll do that by adding 1. So if I put all this together then, my inverse will be 4 parentheses x minus 7 all cubed plus 1. And that's it for this page.